Hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Cornix, and welcome to Yacc, yet another Crowcast where I pick a game, I play it for a week, and then I'll talk about it. This week's game is Goldeneye 007 for the Nintendo 64. It was released in 1997. It's a first-person shooter, developed by Rare and published by Nintendo, and also be spoilers up ahead, just so you know, but first a little backstory. So this game, I believe, me and my brother got for Christmas, along with the Nintendo 64 and Super Mario 64. I might be wrong about that, because it was a long time ago, but what I do remember is that we played a whole lot of this game. So the plot of the game follows the movie a bit, so it adds extra things and padding to make the game more interesting, adding objectives and missions that wasn't really a part of the movie, but it kind of fits. So at startup you get the Nintendo logo and the Rareware logo, and then you get the classic James Bond barrel shot, and later you get introduced to the cast of characters which is in the game, and if you wait a bit you get a small demo of gameplay. So when the game starts, you need to select one of 4 folders and select a mission. And from here you can also select the multiplayer option and cheats. And in multiplayer there are many modes and types of gameplay. It's actually fun. The first mission of the game is Damned, and you can choose between Agent, Secret Agent, and 00 Agent. And it gets harder the more James Bond you get, if that makes sense. So there are more objectives to the 00 Agent and the Secret Agent and so on. And before a mission you also get to read a briefing such as background, mission briefings, and Q branch, and what Moneypenny has to say, the secretary. And sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's just weird, referencing other Bond movies and films, and it's generally a thing you don't read, but I suggest you do. So when the first mission starts, you're in this mountainous area, and in the movie, and just as the game, you need to bungee jump off the dam itself. A funny thing about this, you don't see James Bond tie a bungee cord to anything, he just jumps off the bridge in a cinematic. But as I said before, in Agent, it's just jumping off the dam. In Secret Agent, you need to destroy the alarms, and I believe it was 00 Agent, you need to go down below the dam and shut down a server as well. So it doesn't really follow the movie, kind of, but it doesn't matter. It feels more interesting to do other stuff like spy things. You also put like a modem on a screen, and yeah, I think it's kind of cool that they did this. So while doing research this week, I found out something interesting about Nintendo as a company. Apparently they have a lot of rules about what can and can't be in their games. So apparently they said to Rareware as a studio, like, you can't use the real names of the guns in the game. So the PPK, which is James Bond's standard classic weapon that he always uses, is called a PP7 for some reason. And there's an AK rifle, but you can't call it an AK, so it's called a KF7. And I don't know, but it's probably a thing where they thought that maybe if kids knew about guns, they will probably find them somehow. I don't know. The second mission of the game is Facility. You need to gain access to the lab, rendezvous with 006, aka Alec, and destroy the gas tanks. And don't kill too many scientists while doing this. And a funny thing about this game is most things or objects in the games that you shoot at can explode. And that can lead to some hilarious consequences when the guard goes gun crazy. So the mission starts in a ventilation duct leading into a bathroom, moving on, collecting key cards, opening doors, finding 006 and blowing up the gas tanks and escaping in one piece. And just like the movie, 006 gets shot, presumed dead, and I think they pulled it off pretty well. The next mission is called Runaway, so you need to find plane keys in a plane and fly off. You can also drive a tank in this level, so you can drive a tank in 2 levels. This level, Runaway, in another level called Streets, which is later on in the game. And a funny fact about the plane is that it can actually be destroyed by gunfire. This level also introduces the grenades and mines. And by beating this level, I unlocked a new sheet called DK mode. So it basically, the characters gets big heads, so you can shoot them easier. So the next level of the game is Surface, also called Severnaya. So you need to power down the communication disks and you need to enter the military base. You can find a grenade launcher and the Club in this level. And the Club is a reference to Ken Lobb, a person that helped the game being made in the first place, and he worked for Nintendo of America. So next up is Bunker, so you need to copy the Goldeneye key and leaving the original behind. Copy the main screen where all the information are being displayed, the secret stuff. Avoid and destroy the cameras. And at this point I was getting used to the control, and it's kind of weird because this game feels so different control-wise to Perfect Dark, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because Goldeneye was the first of its kind, but I don't know. The next mission is called Silo, so you need to photograph the satellite, which is in this level, and you need to, well, not kill too many scientists yet again. So you collect key cards in order to progress. You also encounter Oromov, which is a Russian character from the game. You need to shoot him in order to progress, and then he will run off. And the mission ends with you entering an elevator. The next mission is called Frigate, and it starts on a boat, which, well, obviously it's a frigate, I guess. Rescuing some hostages, planting a tracker on a stolen helicopter called the Pirate. So the mission starts from a small boat, you need to complete the objectives and return to the boat once you're done. So the other difficulties of the game, like Secret Agent and Double Agent, I believe you have to disarm a bomb as well, or a couple of bombs in the engine room, but otherwise it's pretty much the same. Later in the game, you go back to the bunker. You also uncover that 006 is actually a double agent and he's alive, working for a crime syndicate. You also save a hacking girl called Natalia, and you find her in the archives, and the level ends with you going to the streets in a tank, following up on the bad guys. Later, there's a train level, there's also a jungle level, and a level called Control, and then the caverns. And the game ends with 007 James facing off Alec on a place called the Cradle, which is this huge antenna with guards and stuff. And once you've beaten the game on Secret and Double Agent, you unlock 2 other levels, which is Aztec, which is based on the Bond movie called Moonraker. It's complete with laser guns and stuff like from that movie. I think you even fight Jaws in that one. Then you have Egypt, where you need to find the golden gun and shoot and kill Baron Samedi. And spoilers, you don't really kill him because he's like a voodoo priest kind of character. Once you've fully beaten the game, you unlock 007, which is like Double Agent, but you can adjust the enemy's health, damage, accuracy, and reaction speeds. It's kind of nostalgic going back to this game because I played on the original cartridge that I had, and all the save files are there and everything. And I also found out this week that this game was crammed into a 90 megabyte cartridge and that 9 people made it. And it just blows my mind because today you have huge studios making on AAA games and 9 people made this game. That's just crazy. So, gameplay. James Bond needs to stop Janus' criming syndicate, and, well, it's the basic James Bond formula. Control, the stick is movement, L&R is aim, the C button fires, the B button reloads and interacts, then the A button switches weapons, and the C button does a couple of things, look up, look down, strafe left and right, and the start button pauses. There's also an option in the control settings to change to different controller options, and I don't know why you want to have 2 people controlling James Bond, but you can do that. Graphics. So an interesting thing about this game is that all the enemy reactions are motion captured, from getting shot in the arm and the leg and even death animations. Another interesting thing about the enemies are the facial textures, and they are taken from people in the office that just were there that day. There's even a funny thing where they mention in a documentary that I watched that they took a photo of a plumber as well, and that's just hilarious. Otherwise, the graphics are rough and bulky, and the face textures are, well, terrible and washed out, but I think they made good with what they had. Sound and music. Graham Norgate and Grant Kirkhope made the soundtrack for this game, with one exception. I liked the train level, the elevator song, or the melody and the Control, the caverns and cradle themes. However, the elevator theme was made by Robin Beanland, and most of the tracks actually follows the Bond theme and sneaking in there, and it's great. Easter egg secrets and glitches. I watched a couple of YouTube documentaries about making of Goldeneye, and apparently the team was, well, they didn't have a lot of experience, but yet they made this. David Doak was responsible for story, level structures, and gameplay mechanics in general. He's also a doctor in real life. So in the level facility, you can actually meet Dr. Doak. So a funny thing about this NPC character is that he has the facial textures of David. So believe it or not, multiplayer was added late in the game's development, up to 4 players split screen simultaneously play. So B. Jones added the following characters: Mayday, Jaws, Oddjob, and Baron Samedi, just for, having something extra to play with. You can also activate cheats while in the game itself, and this is a hidden feature with long combinations of button presses. So back in the day, I went to a very shady website, and I probably got a lot of viruses on my computer back then, but I learned about you can activate guns and invisibility and all these kind of stuff. And I found this code for line mode, and line mode is basically drawing out all the screen wide with lines for the characters would be, and it was kind of interesting. It was like discovering something hidden and something you were not supposed to find. So in conclusion, I wrote, yes, play it, it's a classic. Sure, it will not turn many heads today with the terrible graphics. And also the frame rate is kind of terrible, at places it drops very low. But the sound and music is on point, I think, and the gameplay is fun. And while it's not single player that is the most interesting part, is the multiplayer. I had so many countless hours playing multiplayer with my friends and family, especially my brother. But sadly, I couldn't play multiplayer this week. But it's always fun going back to these games because it's so nostalgic, and it's like finding something great in this terrible world that I live in now, I guess. So it's fun going back and playing awesome games. So anyway, thank you for listening and or watching, and take care.